the Chairperson of the Human Rights Commission, Dr. Pamela Towela Sambo, the Vice Chairperson of the Human Rights Commission, Dr. 𝐶𝐑𝐂-𝐙 Commissioner Meeting, Commissioner Chilufya, Commissioner Chikoya, Commissioner Komakoma, the Director General of the Human Rights Commission, Ms. Bolorwa Bamunyima, dear colleagues from the media, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. My name is Simon Mulumbi. I'm Manager Human Rights Advocacy. I am the Master of Ceremony for this press briefing. We'll start with a prayer. I'll request Ms. Natasha Swala to give us an opening prayer.
Shall we bow our heads in prayer? Our Heavenly Father, we are grateful for this opportunity that you've given the Human Rights Commission and all institutions gathered in service for Zambia and its people. We pray that as this conference takes place, may your spirit of clarity be in our midst, that the discussions in here shall be those that shall prosper Zambia. It is in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and pray for the thanksgiving in our hearts. Amen.
Thank you very much. Before we proceed, I have a couple of announcements. First, for the washrooms, we have the place, the far end of the room, is clearly marked there for the ladies and the gents. Then we also want to remind you of the registration that is going on. Just make sure that you indicate your details on the register. It's important for our record. And also that we'll have some snacks at the end of this briefing. For our dear colleagues from the media, the snacks are being prepared or are being prepared in the restaurant, which is just in the room outside, not far from here. Then for the commissioners, they will have it right from here. We will have a round of introductions before we have the chairperson address the press, and thereafter questions and answers. I will now request our dear colleagues from the media to quickly introduce yourselves. You will state your name and the media house that you are representing. May I start from the row at the back? The next seat there.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Valerie. I'm from CFA.
Morning, my name is Francis Swallow. I'm a freelance journalist.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Alim Kalinga from the
Good morning, my name is Mark Zingone of the BBC.
Good morning, my name is Tawanda Munyoki from Crown TV.
Good morning, I'm Changwa John from Zambia Daily Mail.
Good morning, I'm Samlenga from Zambia Daily Mail.
Good morning, my name is Margaret from Lusaka.
My name is Pamela Towela Sambo.
Maybe I missed you.
Okay. Good morning, my name is Henry Chama from the BBC.
Thank you so much, dear colleagues from the media. Probably our colleagues who are not on time, they will have to find us as as they can. May I take this rare privilege to call upon the Chairperson of the Human Rights Commission to address the members of the press. Chairperson.
Thank you. Colleagues from the media, commissioners, vice chairperson, ladies and gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning.
We have invited you this morning to brief you and through you, the general public, on matters of public interest arising from human rights violation and abuses that the Human Rights Commission has addressed during the course of this year. It has been some time since our last media briefing on the 24th of January 2025. As you may be aware, the Commissioner's previous terms of office lapsed in January 2025 following the repeal of the Human Rights Act number 39 of 1996. The Commissioners resumed office on the 2nd of October 2025 after their reappointment and ratification by the National Assembly pursuant to the Human Rights Commission Act number 4 of 2024. The Human Rights Act number 4 of 2024 places enhanced functions, powers, and obligations on the Commission. Among these is the statutory duty to report to the public from time to time on matters concerning the enjoyment, promotion, and protection of human rights in Zambia. This press briefing is therefore part of fulfillment of that mandate. Before proceeding, please allow me to state that the Commission has been closely following recent national developments that have generated intense public debate. We will issue our considered position on these matters in due course. For today, we wish to report that this week, the Commission held its inaugural Cases Review meeting. A total of 193 cases were considered. Of all these, 148 cases were closed after having been effectively resolved, while 45 cases were recommended for further action to ensure remedies for the victims of human rights violations are fully realized. These figures reflect more than just statistics. They represent some of the lived realities of human rights violations occurring daily throughout the country and requiring the attention of all stakeholders. I now proceed to give a breakdown of some of the thematic human rights violations that the Human Rights Commission has considered this week. Number one, unlawful detention. A significant proportion of cases, broken down as 150 out of 193, which gives us a percentage of 77.7, were reflective of unlawful detention of suspects by law enforcement officers. This is deeply worrying. The right to personal liberty is guaranteed under Article 13 of the Constitution, as well as various international human rights instruments which Zambia has ratified. Yet, this fundamental right continues to be violated with impunity by law enforcement officers. Many detainees are held in conditions far below minimum acceptable human habitation standards, with little attention being paid to their health needs. Some have developed severe health complications, including death while in police custody. The law clearly stipulates the circumstances under which a person may be deprived of their liberty. However, the Commission found widespread non-compliance with these legal standards, with many suspects being detained for varying prolonged periods before being taken to court. In the course of investigating these cases, we have established that one of the reasons for the prolonged detention of suspects is the denial of police bond to suspects. This problem appears particularly rampant in rural areas where the police tend to demand for sureties who are in the civil service or other formal employment. Such categories of employees are scarce in some of these areas in Zambia. This makes it practically impossible for most suspects to secure appropriate sureties. As a result, many ordinary citizens continue to be unlawfully detained. The Commission is also alarmed by the persistent practice of arresting suspects while investigations are being carried out. This practice is illegal. Suspects should only be arrested once the law enforcement officers have sufficient evidence to charge the person with an offense within the legally prescribed period of 24 hours. The Commission has also noted a pattern of prolonged detention in relation to murder suspects on account of delays in receiving post-mortem and medical reports which are processed in Lusaka. A similar concern was also noted in relation to drug-related allegations where officers tend to wait for laboratory analysis from Lusaka. Other compounding factors relate to slow docket processing between the police and National Prosecution's Office, unavailability of court interpreters, and in some cases, challenges relating to transportation of suspects from holding cells to the courts. These systemic bottlenecks undermine the right to liberty and must be urgently addressed. The second thematic area is cases affecting children. Children remain among the most vulnerable groups in need of special protection in the country at the moment. While the enactment of the Children's Code Act number 12 of 2022 represents significant progress, violations of children's rights continue to surface and resurface in many more ways. This year, the Commission reviewed 27 cases involving children. 3 key areas of concern arise with regards to children's rights. Number 1, deprivation of liberty of children in conflict with the law. The Commission intervened in 23 cases where children in conflict with the law were detained in police custody. Detention of children should only occur as a matter of last resort and for the shortest possible time. The Children's Code Act limits child detention to 48 hours, irrespective of the offense alleged to have been committed by the child. This legal standard must be upheld without exception. The second issue under children's rights is child diversion. The Commission further noted that children were being detained without the involvement of their parents and/or social welfare officers, contrary to the law. Such practices deny children access to rehabilitative alternatives. Through the Commission's intervention, 11 children were released from police custody and placed on diversion programs in line with the law. Thirdly, the disposal of children's matters is of concern. While the Children's Code Act provides for specialized courts for children, many children's cases are still being delayed. The law requires disposal of such cases within 6 months of first court appearance. There is need to increase the number of judicial officers dedicated to children's matters throughout the country. Fourthly, the emerging trend of violence against children in schools. The Commission is concerned about rising violence in schools, including corporal punishment, which is prevalent, despite its prohibition in Article 15 of the Constitution and Section 22 of the Children's Code Act. Allow me to report that the Commission also intervened in cases involving bullying and gang violence, especially in boarding schools in the country. We call upon the Ministry of Education to take decisive action in addressing these vices. We also urge the Zambia Police Service and other partners to proactively address school-based violence, delinquency, and other vices which adversely affect the enjoyment of human rights. We move to next steps by the Commission. Ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to conclude by outlining some of the immediate actions that the Commission will undertake towards addressing some of these worrying human rights concerns. Number one, engagement with the Zambia Police Service to enforce strict measures against unlawful police conduct and ensure accountability for individual officers who are involved in human rights violations. We will also continue monitoring the implementation of the Children's Code Act and strengthening collaboration with the Judiciary, Social Welfare Department, law enforcement agencies, and other partners in matters involving children. The Commission will also continue with engagements with the Ministry of Health, with proposals for decentralized food and drug laboratory services to provincial level, with a view towards expediting analysis reports, particularly in drug-related cases, thereby reducing some of the cases of prolonged detention. The Commission will also ensure close liaison with the judiciary to promote timely disposal of children's cases, especially in areas without easy access to children's courts. Where necessary, the Commission will pursue strategic public interest litigation to challenge some entrenched practices, administrative actions, or policies that violate human rights in the country in accordance with Section 21(5) of the Human Rights Act number 4 of 2024. In conclusion, the Commission deeply appreciates the support of all our collaborating partners, including the media. In this vein, we wish to specifically commend the media for the critical role they continue to play in exposing human rights violations in the country. On behalf of the Human Rights Commission, management, and the Board of Commissioners, we hereby reaffirm our unwavering commitment towards ensuring that every person in Zambia enjoys equal protection of the law and that all duty bearers uphold human rights and remain accountable for their obligations. I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chairperson, for that address. Dear colleagues from the media, we will now move to the session where, in case you might have a question, a clarification from the address that the Chairperson has given, with the permission of the Chairperson, we'll take a few questions. I must also mention that we bear in mind that today the chairperson and the commissioners have a very tight schedule. They have business going on, and they had to suspend for this particular, engagement with the media to take place. And shortly after this, they will be resuming the business. So, with the permission from the chairperson, let me give the opportunity to the first maybe 2 or 3 journalists who might have a question to ask. Please state your name and the media house you are representing. I've seen 3 hands at the back. Can we start with those 3 in that from the father in that order?
Compared to last year, do you think that the Human Rights Commission is doing enough to ensure that these cases are being reduced? And also, I wanted to find out what are you doing to make sure that the community are being aware of what is happening? Because we have seen that in the community, human rights, we are not present. Because yesterday I was in Kanyama. We were told that human rights are not there.
Okay, thank you very much. Please let's ensure that we keep our questions or comments very short, and also maybe ask one question so that we give opportunity to the others. The next question.
So my question is, as a commission, have you taken keen interest in now the police and obviously the government has been restricting people's freedom to movement and assemble? Because this is one of the issues where people are complaining. Like in the last 4 years, political parties have been complaining to say that they haven't been given the right for them to meet people, to hold rallies. So have you taken keen interest and have you engaged with stakeholders? Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Perhaps just to guide, as the chairperson stated at the beginning of the address, I think she took note of other issues that may be happening, and clearly stated that the matters that have not been addressed in her speech will be addressed in due course. So we want you to have this opportunity to interact with the chairperson on these particular matters that she's raised. We'll give you another opportunity for you to address it, to have those other issues addressed. So maybe the chairperson will be able to respond to that, but I feel it is one that is not related to what has been raised by the chairperson. I move to the next question.
Good morning, my name is Pamela Towela from Millennium Radio. The chairperson did pointed to the fact that people are being detained for more than 14 days. And this has been happening for quite some time. And of course, human rights will give reports about these issues. And there have been complaints about the judiciary and the police detaining people for more than that period for quite a long time now. And it seems like the executive doesn't seem to act on that. What further action is the Human Rights Commission trying to take in as far as addressing this issue is actually concerned? Because this has been a continued issue, not only now, but even in the previous regime and the previous regime before that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The chairperson may respond to the issues that have been raised by the journalists. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that opportunity to discuss those important questions that have been posed. The first question from them is relating to the 77% cases. I'll just put put that in context. So the total number of cases that we reviewed in this period that we have been working as this commission is 193. And out of these 193 cases, we have 150 that are pointing to unlawful detention. And these statistics are not any different from what we have seen in the previous years. So in terms of the most challenging human rights violations that we have in the country, historically and at present, it's unlawful detentions, prolonged detention. And this relates to a lot of our common people, a lot of our people, especially outside Lusaka, where knowledge of what should happen in line with the law remains low. So in terms of our realization that this is a perennial problem, we are now equipped with the provisions of the new Human Rights Commission Act number 4 of 2024, where we can also survey the prospects of strategic litigation, where the Commission now with its legal personality, we will be able to use litigation as a way of ensuring compliance towards the provisions of the law to avoid prolonged and unlawful detention. So in terms of what the Commission is doing and our presence to educate the public, we will admit that as an institution we are not able to be everywhere, as was noted that in the case of areas of Kanyama, our presence is not being felt. I'm not sure when you say there are no human rights, is it there's no representation from the Commission, or human rights are non-existent? But anyway, either way, we want to step up in terms of our awareness raising towards the public, and we would also want to call upon members of the public to make use of our toll-free line to help us get to the communities and hear the challenges they are facing with regard to human rights violations. So I will say our toll-free line again in terms of accessibility, and for you, our dear colleagues in the media, to help us with publication and publicity around the availability of this toll-free line, 8181, for reports of any human rights violations. There was a question from the Daily Nation on police and freedom of assembly and the right to engage. Very important matters of human rights, but as I had mentioned, we are focused today on the reports or the cases that we have actually reviewed. So to give a bit of background to the cases that we are discussing today, which the Commission has reviewed since Monday, these are cases that were reported to the Commission, and some of the cases were followed up on the initiative of the Commission. Amongst those, we have not had a record of the infringement of the right to associate and assemble. That does not mean that the violations are not happening. It just means that within the thematic areas that we have discussed today, those are not incorporated. In terms of a wider outlook on the human rights landscape in the country, you will note that in my address in the beginning, I mentioned that an overview will be given later in the course of this year. And we are already at the tail end of the year, so please do look out. The last question was related to the first, where we talked about historical challenges of entrenched practices that violate human rights. And I have alluded to these, that the Commission is committed to finding innovative mechanisms within the provisions of the law to address what seems to be historical problems. We will engage with the judiciary in terms of where we have noted challenges bordering on judicial service, We also have engagements as usual with the Zambia Police Service. As you have seen, most of the cases, up to 77%, border on unlawful detentions at the hands of law enforcement agencies who are predominantly the Zambia Police. So the work that the Commission is doing is ongoing, and we depend on the partnership of you, the media, to help us to bring awareness to areas that seem to be underserviced by the Commission, and also, as I mentioned earlier on, to give publicity to the provision of members of the public submitting complaints or particular reports for our attention in case we miss them when we look out for cases on our own motion. I hope that is answering the questions posed.
Thank you so much. I noticed, Chairperson, that we still have some hands. Maybe with your permission, we can take another round. I think 𝐸𝐷 was first. I see, okay, that hand. Is there another hand? Maybe if you asked, we first give opportunity to those who did not ask. Is it a call? I think you asked a question. We'll get back to you. Let's give the others who did not. I'll start with that. Then the gentleman there, I've not seen the third one. Okay, we'll see. Thank you. Okay.
So, mine is with regards to the 192 cases that you mentioned. Does that also include cases to do with defilements? You did mention in the statements that there has been denial of police bonds. So contrary to that, there has been concerns from the community that they have been shunning reporting defilement cases because they always see their offenders moving around without them being detained, and they have been calling that they should not be put on police bond. I would just like to get your view in relation to that.
Thank you. The next.
Yeah, thank you. So as also on the 193 cases, would you be in a position to tell us the nature of these cases that you recorded? And also, especially 45 cases which were recommended for further action. I'm looking at 193 cases in a week, calculated by 4 weeks, 1 year. What picture does this portray with regards to human rights violations?
Thank you. The third one.
Also intervened in cases boarding schools that involves corporal punishments, cyberbullying, cyber and gang bullying. As it further called for an immediate or decisive action in connection of education. Because I'm not indicating how many cases we are looking at. I'm sure the magnitude or the seriousness of the cases, so that it's over.
Thank you very much. The chairperson may respond to those questions.
Thank you very much. So the first question, suspects who are alleged to have committed defilement. Yes, indeed. When we look at some of the unlawful detention cases, some of them involve persons who are alleged to have defiled children. Just to give a bit of context in terms of the legal procedure with respect to criminal cases, once a person is suspected of having committed defilement in this case, they must appear, once they are arrested by the law enforcement officers, there is need, according to section 33(1) of the Criminal Procedure Code, to only keep them in detention up to 24 hours. Thereafter, they must be taken to court, because the courts are the only authorized institutions to pronounce custodial sentences once the verdict of guilt has been passed. So what we have seen happening is that persons charged with various offenses ranging from theft, defilement included, and other sexual offenses, aggravated robbery, murder, are kept in police custody beyond the stipulated 24-hour period before being taken to court. The Commission is concerned that prolonged unlawful detention occurs when a suspect is kept in the police custody beyond that 24-hour period without being taken to court. That is where we focus. It is indeed legitimate for members of the public to complain that sometimes when suspects are accused of heinous offenses, they may be seen as though they have been pardoned when they are given a police bond. However, the law is that somebody is presumed to be innocent until the court has made a pronouncement of guilt. And until the court has made that pronouncement, the person who is accused of having committed defilement, for instance, should not be in the police custody beyond 24 hours. The only offenses that bond or bail may not legally be granted are classified, and these relate to murder and other capital offenses like treason. Other than that, most of the other offenses are bailable and bondable. So that was with regards to members of the public. And with regard to that question, I must hasten to state that the Commission has taken it upon itself to avail this public awareness to the communities, so that the communities, together with the law enforcement agencies in the various communities, can work together with a common understanding of what is required by law. So we do note that in terms of the awareness that the Commission must step up. The second question related to the total number of 193 cases and their breakdown. I see some quick mathematics was being conducted to see if it is per day, per week, and trying to apportion. I'll just guide that these 193 cases spread across from January. Some of them actually are also from part of 2024. So it is not that they have happened in the last 1 week. The Commission has only sat to review these on account of what I mentioned earlier on, that between January and October, this Commission was not in office. So we have a backlog of cases from last year and part of this year, which we sought to close. And these are the 193 that have been reviewed this week. Then the other question was relating to, is it the 53 cases? 45 cases. The 45 cases that we have so the 45 cases, we did not close them. They should actually be added to the 193. There should be a total of 193 plus the 45. But we did not close those cases because we feel there are still areas of intervention that the Commission must carry out. For instance, we may not have identified the age of the complainant. We may not be very clear with the circumstances. And some of these cases are coming from our provincial offices, where we needed to get back to our officers on the ground for further clarification. So those also may necessitate further investigation. I think the third question was very important, not that the others are not important. Important in the sense that it is directly related to children's rights. If you have noticed in this briefing, the bulk of the cases that we have looked to as well hinge on children's rights. Out of the total of 193 cases, we have 27 cases involving children. And with regards to the case of children, the Commission feels that this is an important and critical area that must be given attention. We have had a very progressive piece of legislation, the Children's Code Act, enacted to protect every person under the age of 18 as a child. However, the indications that we are having are that there are a lot of violations that are happening around children's rights. And in particular, we noted the issue of corporal punishment in schools. The Commission has been quite active in this regard, and we have publicized a number of short reports and interventions relating to children's rights. As we speak to you, the media, today, we seek your partnership in discussing the issues of children's rights. As I mentioned in the address, these are a very vulnerable component of our community, who are daily being subjected to various violations and abuse of human rights. So with regard to what the Commission has done, some of these matters regarding corporal punishment have already been surrendered to law enforcement officers. We are stepping up awareness amongst children, amongst those who interact with children, and we have a strong partnership working with the judiciary as well as the social welfare department with regard to these matters. I hope that addresses that question.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Chairperson, and dear colleagues from the media. I think as we indicated at the beginning, the Commission the Chairperson, Vice Chairperson and the Commissioners, they have ongoing business from Monday up to today. So they took a break just to come and address the press on some of these very important issues. And I know I saw somebody was still itching to ask a question. Has it been addressed, or you still want to ask? It's addressed, eh? Okay. With the permission of Chairperson, maybe the last, if we can. I think what in the last two hands I've seen. Please, you bear with us, members of the press. So I hope it's related to the matters, at hand. Let's stick to that. So you may proceed to ask, and I saw the last one in front there. Okay, thank you.
It's literally part of what you practice. And your appointments are usually political. And in terms of the education, your one is the 14 days. But it's most of the time, so people that have to join the chair and there's been a concern that because of the political appointment, some of you on the commission should be influence on the matter. How do you navigate around this particular issue with regards to the fact that you are appointed by the president, and then these issues seem to affect mostly the opposition that came beyond the reasonable time that they're supposed to take the job?
Thank you. You can ask.
My name is Pamela. Mine is wanting to find out how we can deal with the issue of what seemingly looks like an income generating activity like this in the issue of shishi. But the greatest concern is how then, like we are talking about rights, is that the holding cells and police do not classify whether you are caught for theft, murder. They will just count you in there, and as a violation to children, which are many a times the ones arrested for loitering. I was just wondering how we can navigate the issue of holding cells having to classify people with felonies as against capital offenders. don't know how we can deal.
Okay. Thank you so much. Those issues have been noted. The chairperson may respond. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those questions. They are an opportunity to actually shed light on some of the misconceptions that pertain to human rights in the country specifically. So I'll start by addressing the second question on offences of loitering and other petty offences compared to capital offences and offenders being lumped in the same holding cells. These are some of the systemic and historical challenges that the Commission has to contend with. So in most of the cases that we reviewed, this was evident, in addition to the fact that children who ought not to be in these holding cells were actually found in numerous instances to be within the holding cells. There are quite a number of challenges that we see, and we may need to also look at the structural challenges that some of these offices have to undergo. Not that they are an excuse for human rights violations, but resolution is ongoing. As I mentioned, we are in discussions with the Zambia Police Service as well as the judiciary to ensure that even throughout the criminal justice system, aspects of human rights adherence are encouraged. So this is an ongoing challenge that the Commission has to work around throughout the country, not just in Lusaka. As you may know, we have offices throughout the country in all the provincial centers. So it is truly a challenge, and we need to hold hands together to work towards addressing that. The first question relating to resolution of human rights cases by the commissioners, given their appointment by the president, is interesting. I think when we look at the current Human Rights Act number 4 of 2024, it outlines the appointment process. First of all, the qualifications that are expected of those commissioners who must sit as commissioners of human rights. Arising from the nominations that are made from people who are qualified in line with the Human Rights Commission Act, these names are subjected to ratification by Parliament. And the functional appointment according to the Constitution is through the office of the President of the Republic of Zambia. The mandate that is given to this commission is spelled out in the Constitution as well as the Human Rights Act. In terms of any shortcomings, this is where we invite all members of the public to use our facilities through the toll-free line 8181 to engage with specific complaints that we can address. It is quite challenging to be given a blanket complaint. When we receive, like we have an example today, these 193 cases, we dedicate time to understand exactly what is happening in that particular case. Minus a complaint like that, and perhaps, Mr. Murumi, that may be a complaint that we can follow on our own motion, since it has not come through the channels that we have via email, via WhatsApp, and via the toll-free line. The Commission, as I said earlier on, is committed to fulfilling its mandate under the Human Rights Commission Act, and importantly, pursuant to the Constitution. In terms of any feedback that shows that human rights violations are occurring, we call upon you, members of the press, to help the Commission to meet its mandate. I think that is how we can address those questions.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chairperson, for those responses.